Here's the thing, GPT 5.2, I'm a little skeptical, right? So basically, here's the situation with OpenAI, right? So they just released GPT 5.2 like 20 minutes ago. And the reason is because Sam Altman was freaking out with Gemini's Gemini 3 Pro release. And so they released, what they were calling an internal code red. Basically, they were losing some ground, just that perceived lead that OpenAI had among all of the other AI platforms out there. Basically, ChatGPT and all of the GPT models, they really took the lead in everybody's mind. Everybody thought that they were the best. Obviously, you've got all of these different models that work for different use cases a little bit better, but in general, OpenAI really had the lead in the AI race. And when Gemini released their latest model with Gemini 3, basically it blew up and they took a massive lead. They've been doing a phenomenal job integrating it into better tools. Nano Banana Pro came out and they took a massive lead with that. And now Sam Altman was freaking out. And so he released his little internal code red, right? And so he basically pushed the team to release GPT 5.2 much earlier than they expected. And keep in mind, right, GPT 5.1 just released like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago now. It hasn't been long. And so for them to push out another flagship model this fast, it's a big deal. And it's not something that we should ignore. It's something that really brings to light the fact that this AI race is moving extremely fast and everybody feels like they're neck and neck, and everybody's really competing against Google, because Google wasn't as worried in the beginning because they had a massive lead, right? They had the majority of the market share when it came to technology, when it came to search, and they were the ones freaking out 2 years ago when OpenAI came out with ChatGPT and everybody started using ChatGPT and all of the OpenAI models, but now they're really starting to take some ground again. So for us, we're just watching this happen and the race is literally neck and neck. This is good for us, right? We want more competition. We want more neck and neck racing because it pushes people to innovate faster, to innovate better, to be more competitive. And so us as consumers, the people that use all of this AI technology, that's a good thing. We want that. However, I don't know how GPT 5.2 is really going to change when they just released their other flagship model, GPT 5.1, just a few weeks ago, and now they're pushing out 5.2. So in this video, we're literally just going to break down a little bit about what's different. I haven't read any of this, right? So I'm going to be reacting live with you guys. We're going to be testing it a little bit and just seeing how it feels different. So I'm going to go through some of the articles. I'm going to go through some of what people are saying on X, and then we're going to pull it up. I don't even think it's released in ChatGPT right now. The API is released, and I can go into the platform's Playground and test it there. So you'll be able to see us test it a little bit. But in general, I haven't seen it released in ChatGPT yet. I'm sure it'll come out soon, later today or in the next, maybe even while we're still live streaming here. But we're just going to kind of react live here because it's insane. It's insane that they're releasing it so fast. So we're introducing GPT 5.2, the most capable model series yet for professional knowledge work, right? They released, I think yesterday or the day before, I covered it a little bit, their enterprise, they released an article, it was about 28 pages long, called The State of AI for Enterprise, the Enterprise State of AI. And it was this big study on all of the enterprise companies out there that are using AI and how it affects individuals' work in how much time they can actually save. And it just said that on average it's saving people at least 40 to 60 minutes a day, so roughly 5 hours a week. And that's what we tell our clients too at Madewell AI. We tell people that AI, if you just adopt it right, if you use it well, and we start with the education front, just helping people understand what that means, how do you use AI better, it's going to save you about 5 hours a week minimum, right? And if you adopt it really well, then it could get up to 10 plus hours a week. And so I'm using it all day long in various ways. And I think it saves me tremendous time. It makes one person operate much more effectively than they could otherwise. And so, the article definitely lined up with that, but they're basically releasing GPT 5.2 saying it can do even better. So we designed GPT 5.2 to unlock even more economic value for people. It's better at creating spreadsheets, building presentations, writing code, perceiving images, understanding long context, using tools, and handling complex multi-step projects. Here's the thing about Gemini. What people didn't realize about Gemini 3 is just the level of upgrade that we got in reasoning power and the reasoning ability with Gemini 3. That's what makes Nano Banana Pro so good. So if you haven't tested out Gemini 3 and Nano Banana inside of NotebookLM, you need to do that today. Just go to google.com and test it out in there. And you'll see if you upload a bunch of websites or documents or PDFs and you click create a slide deck, the fact that it's creating a slide deck that's actually usable is because of the reasoning power behind Gemini 3. So if in GPT 5.2, we're getting another upgrade in reasoning power in how well it can actually reason through some of this stuff, that's a good thing for us because it means it can take a bunch of information and actually reason through it in a really helpful, useful way. Whereas before, you would throw it a bunch of context and it would kind of get lost a little bit, but now it's getting better and better and better. And so I'm hoping that that's what they're saying with this GPT 5.2 release, is that it's going to become a little bit more along the lines of Gemini 3, which is what we saw. Like if you haven't seen any of the infographics that Gemini 3 can put together in NotebookLM using Nano Banana Pro, it's amazing, right? And so I'm hoping that we're headed that direction. So GPT 5.2 sets a new state of the art across many benchmarks, including all of these major benchmarks that they release. I don't care as much about the benchmarks. Like, obviously, everybody's going to say they're doing better and better and better on these benchmarks. That's cool. What really matters is when you actually use it, how it affects your work and the way that it outputs certain things like those infographics or slide decks or things like that. And so we'll see, down here in some of these examples, but obviously every time somebody releases a new model, they're going to say it topped the last model on the benchmarks. And so I wouldn't pay too much attention to all of the benchmarks, but obviously it's looking good that we're headed in that direction. Seeing these big jumps, that's what seems like maybe pay a little bit of attention, that their last model from just a month ago, 38% on this benchmark, but now GPT 5.2 thinking hits 70%. That's a significant jump. I don't know if it's going to feel that good, but we'll see as we kind of explore down here. So Notion, Box, Shopify, Harvey, and Zoom observe GPT 5.2 demonstrates state-of-the-art long horizon reasoning and tool. So other people have had access to this already, right? Some of the big companies that are partnering with OpenAI, they've released early access to them, and just to get their feedback and see how it actually affects their work. And so we're going to kind of see exactly what that means down here. Model performance, economically valuable tasks. So it's the best model yet for real world professional use on eval measures. Well-specified knowledge work across 44 occupations. GPT 5.2 thinking sets a new state-of-the-art score, right? So we're still talking about benchmarks here. So I'm going to skip across some of these benchmarks and get down to some of these examples. So this is showing GPT 5.1 thinking versus GPT 5.2 thinking. And you can kind of see some of these examples here. This is GPT 5.1 thinking. This would be a spreadsheet that it would create if you're just giving it a bunch of context, giving it a bunch of numbers, and then you ask it to create a spreadsheet. This is what it's going to look like. Whereas the same prompts, if you give it to GPT 5.2 thinking, it's going to create a much more useful, much more thought out spreadsheet that's got, maybe better headers and better formatting, and maybe there's formulas in here as well. This could definitely be useful for people creating spreadsheets. This is showing an example of a cap table, right? And so in general, I think that GPT 5.2 just looks a little more organized. And then project management. So I don't know if this is a spreadsheet. It probably is a spreadsheet, but obviously 5.2 is looking much more effective. The output is just looking better. So this is good. We're headed in the right direction there. I actually skimmed down here. It's showing coding. I'm going to skip over coding for now. Most of my audience is not really writing code. That's more of what we do. And so this is good for us. Obviously, the better that it can code, the better it is for us to work with our clients. But in general, I want to look at more of the everyday use outside of code. So, but this does show, kind of the output. So this is an example I was looking at earlier of an ocean wave simulation. You can kind of change the speed and the height of these waves here, the lighting effects here. And so this is maybe an example. And it has this little holiday card builder. You can come in here and just add different things, move them around. I'm sure this was one-shotted, just give it a prompt. And so we're seeing that it's moving in a good direction where you can create stuff pretty quickly. Interesting. Oh, that's kind of cool. So I guess you're building a holiday card from me to my friend, Shake. Interesting. You can give it a jingle. I mean, it's cool. It's cool. It's cool that I can make that. And then typing rain game. Start. Oh, start. Cloud. Oh, interesting. That's cool. Prove. So this is a typing game basically to learn how to type faster. I wonder if I can speed it up. Rapid, gentle, ease. Oh yeah, it just speeds up as it comes down. Right. I might actually play this later. This is fun. Okay. Yeah. So they gave it a prompt. The prompt is create a single page app in a single HTML file following requirements, name, typing range, goal, type following words before they reach the bottom. So this is a very simple prompt. And if it one-shotted from this prompt, this is not a good prompt, by the way. If you're actually writing code or building apps with AI, you definitely want to give it better prompts than this, more detail, more structure, better architecture, things like that. And so for it to come up with what it did from a very simple prompt like this, that's good. We're heading in a good direction. So I'm happy with it so far. Obviously, I hate the design usually that AI comes up with. That was one of the big things I saw in Gemini 3 was its ability to create and design things. The front end design was just AI is terrible. It always looks like AI. It's got this Claude feel with these weird gradients. Gemini 3 was one of the first models that I've seen that I was like, I would use this actually. This is great. We're headed in a really good direction. And so what we're looking at here with OpenAI GPT 5.2, it's okay. It's got that classic AI looking graphics. So I probably wouldn't use this, but it's usable. It's cool. Right now, we're talking more about the reasoning ability to create this, not so much the design. And so I want to see more models that are better at front end design, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad model. It could still be a phenomenal model to work with. All right, so we're going to come down here. GPT 5.2 represents the biggest leap for GPT models in agentic coding since GPT-5 and is a SOTA coding model. SOTA just stands for state of the art in its price range. Okay, I am interested to look at the pricing because a lot of times these models come out, they don't get cheaper. Sometimes they get more expensive. OpenAI has done a great job at continuing to lower the price every time they come out with a new model. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Responses with errors were, 30% less common. For professionals, this means fewer mistakes when using the model for research, writing, analysis, and decision support. So that's what most people are going to use ChatGPT for. Brainstorming, decisions, strategy, writing, and research. Like this is where people really are starting to use ChatGPT as somebody to bounce ideas off of and really talk things through. So I like it. I like using ChatGPT for that. I use it every single day. I bounce between all of the models, Grok, Claude, Gemini, depending on the use case, but ChatGPT is my go-to for brainstorming. The fact that we're moving lower in the mistakes or errors, then that's a good thing because I want to see more of that. And I'm curious to see what the writing looks like. Reasoning effort, long context. This is a big deal, right? So 5.2 thinking sets a new state of the art in long context reasoning, achieving leading performance in this evaluation that tests a model's ability to integrate information across long documents. So that is important here. It doesn't exactly say how long the documents are though. 100% accuracy with their tests out to 256,000 tokens, which is big, but it's not significant. Long context, 128,000. Yeah, it's just better. So, we were getting 60%, 65% with GPT 5.1. We're getting 95% with GPT 5.2 with big, long context. So basically what this means is if you just wanted to throw in a 30-page PDF into ChatGPT and ask it questions, it's more likely going to be able to give you helpful answers because it's super long. There's a lot of context. And this works with people too, right? If you talk to somebody for an hour, and then ask them questions about that conversation, more often than not, it's going to be hard for them to actually recall all of that information. The more intelligent that you get, the smarter that you are, the more that you practice being able to retain information really quickly, the better you are going to be at being able to recall that information. So we're getting models that are starting to get better and better at this so that you can just throw it a PDF without a bunch of pre-training or fine-tuning. You can just throw it a big PDF and it's going to be better at actually giving you helpful answers. So I'm happy to see that, definitely headed in the right direction there. Vision. So 5.2 is our strongest vision model, right? Cutting error rates roughly in half on chart reasoning and software interface reasoning. This is good. I mean, this affects OCR if you wanted to throw in a PDF and actually get good, accurate answers from a PDF that doesn't have the text, right? So think of like an invoice or something like that. If you wanted to extract information from that, or an image, if I wanted to throw in an image and extract information from that, your vision is pretty important here. So we're just headed in a from 80% to 88% accuracy, right? So better. I like it. I'm not, I don't know if it's going to be drastic, but we're definitely headed, in a better direction. This one shows ScreenSpot Pro GUI screenshot understanding from 64% up to 86%. Accuracy. And so this is good. I use screenshots a ton, right? If you ever just take a screenshot and just throw it into ChatGPT, I use it a lot like that. And so Definitely something that we want to see more of like that. All right, we've got GPT 5.1, 5.2. This is just showing some screenshots, right? And so it's able to describe what you're seeing in this screenshot. But in this one, you're actually showing way more detail, basically, is what GPT 5.2 is doing, is it's showing a lot more of what's happening in this picture. And it's pretty pixelated and it's old. And there's a lot of details happening in this screenshot. All right, tool calling. Let's see here. Tool calling GPT 5.2, thinking achieves a new state of the art, 98% for latency. So tool calling really affects your agentic ability when you're actually using the model. It's not going to, it will affect a little bit when you're using ChatGPT, you as a user, because it uses a lot of different tools. But for us as developers, for all of our clients, and we're building agents for them, getting models that are better and better and better at these tool calling abilities, this is really helpful. And so it's pretty important to have these models that are getting better at it. And we're seeing not a significant increase, but 95 to 98% here. That's pretty good. So we're headed in a good direction. Now they're not comparing it to Gemini right now or to Claude. And so in these little benchmark screenshots, we're not really seeing that. And so I'm curious how it stacks up against those. All right. Science, math. Okay. I'm not seeing anything else crazy in here. GPT 5.2 and ChatGPT. And ChatGPT users should notice GPT 5.2 feels better to use day to day, more structured, more reliable, still enjoyable to talk to. GPT 5.2 Instant is fast, capable workhorse of every day, clear improvements in info, how-tos, walkthroughs, but building on the warmer conversational tone with 5.1. So this is one of the big things that came out with 5.1 was GPT-5. So 4.0 to 5 felt like we went from warm and conversational to robotic, right? And I made a video kind of explaining how this works, where you kind of upgrade in intelligence, but you downgrade in EQ, which is that emotional intelligence. And it felt like it could have been smarter, but people just felt less inclined to use it because it felt like talking to a robot a little bit more. It was a little bit more cold and, just direct to the point. And you might even see that with humans, right? Really smart people, not really there with their emotional intelligence. So the conversations don't feel as like you're getting a connection. And so with these AI models, we want to see as users, we want to see more emotional intelligence and more general, IQ. It's good to see both going up, but we're seeing GPT 5.2. We're headed in that direction where you have more emotional intelligence. You still keep that 5.1 emotional intelligence, but also it's just getting smarter and better in the way that it's responding. All right, 5.2 thinking, 5.2 pro. Smartest and most trustworthy option for difficult answers. You're only going to get this on the highest tier with the subscription with ChatGPT, but that is probably their best model, right? If you have that $200 a month subscription, that's what you're going to get with it. I don't pay for that. I pay $20 a month for ChatGPT, and it pretty much gives me everything that I need. But if you really use it for a lot of your workload, then $200 a month, you could pay that. Safety, right? We're seeing a lot of safety stuff come out, and this is important. So we're in early stages of rolling out our age prediction models so that we can automatically apply content protections for users who are under 18. That's interesting. So this was OpenAI's big issue, right? Because there was that devastating story of somebody that had committed suicide per the instructions and encouragement of ChatGPT. And the parents were in a lawsuit. I believe they're still currently in the middle of a lawsuit against OpenAI. That is a horrible, terrible story, terrible situation. And OpenAI is doing their best. I'm sure they could do better, but they're in process of trying to put in good safety measures to prevent that from ever happening again. In my opinion, parents should have full transparency of all of their kids' chat messages with alerts and the ease of ability to be able to semantically search across all of their kids' chat messages. That's my opinion. If you live in my house, I have access to all of your internet, your phone, everything. But here they're at least they're trying to protect the privacy of the kids while also protecting the safety of the kids. And so this is basically their compromise. And that is predicting when somebody's under the age of 18 so that they don't, they limit certain types of reactions with them. And so, anything is better than nothing, but my opinion still stands. I think parents should have full transparency over basically any platform that their kids have access to. So availability and pricing, this is what I wanted to see, right? So you've got in the API, you have $1.75 inputs, $14 outputs. Not significantly cheaper, but a little bit cheaper. So that is good. And then GPT 5.1 was 25. Oh, it's actually a little bit higher, significantly higher for GPT-5 from GPT-5 Pro to GPT-5.2 Pro. But GPT-5.1 is what we were currently using. So $1.25 to $1.75. So it's actually a little bit more expensive, less than it used to be. We used to be at $3, for input tokens and $30, right, for output tokens. Now it's getting cheaper. So what this means for you as a user, right? If you're not building custom applications, doesn't matter as much. But if you're doing custom application development or you're working with a team like Madewell to build that for you, this is going to affect your usage cost, right? And so anytime that you actually use the API, it's going to charge you per million input tokens. And so tokens, just think of it like this: 750 million words or 750,000 words is roughly a million tokens. And so that's kind of how it turns out to be. So it's really pennies per usage, but this is how they bill, is per million tokens. So that is it on their release. I am going to switch over to X and just kind of go through what they're looking at here, just all the release notes, because they released a couple things. So it's now rolling out to everyone. I don't have a picture there. Our smartest, most trustworthy model for difficult users, strongest performance in complex domains like programming. Everything is about programming. 5.2 is a part of an ongoing set of model improvements. We're continuing to iterate. Here's my opinion. They just rushed this thing out, right? Is it going to be a little bit better? Yeah. But I don't think that they intended to release this early at all. I don't think it's that significant of a jump from 5.1 to 5.2. I haven't tested it yet, but my gut says they freaked out about Gemini 3 and they pushed this out as fast as they could before the end of 2025. And anytime that you rush anything like that out of fear, it's not going to be what everybody hopes that it's going to be. And so I'm going to be interested to see how this actually turns out. And then we can kind of see what other people are actually saying about it. Here are the evals, right? And we kind of already went over that. Again, the biggest significant jump. Oh, this says 50 to 55%. So that's the SWE, right? So the GPQA and then the GDPVal. This was 38 to 70%. And then, so this is the biggest jump, is down here on this evaluation. So just knowledge work tasks, which is mostly you. Most of the people that I work with every day and talk with every day, you would kind of fall into that bucket of a knowledge worker. So you work on your computer and you work with knowledge every day. You're not blue collar necessarily. This stuff still helps with blue collar, but in a different way. Whereas most people that work on their computer, this is the knowledge work tasks, and you can just throw stuff into ChatGPT. So seeing a 38% jump to a 70% jump is a big deal. So I'm excited about that. All right, this is what I wanted to start seeing. 5.2 thinking raises the bar. Here are the images. Yeah, 5.2. So this is what I wanted to see, right? So the fact that it's just in ChatGPT creating these Excel files for you with this much formatting. Guys, I come from old school business, right? 10 plus years ago, I was creating these spreadsheets by myself, having to figure out formulas by myself. This was a nightmare. I'm literally like hours and hours, sometimes days of work just to create one spreadsheet, and ChatGPT can literally do that in one prompt now. And so, what is this prompt? Create a workforce planning model, headcount hiring plan, attrition and budget impact, include engineering, market, legal, and sales, right? So this is just a prompt. It's probably using arbitrary numbers, but if you gave it real numbers, like if I go into my metrics and I just pull, how many leads did we get this month? How many deals did we close? How many of them booked an appointment? How many of those appointments actually showed up? And I wanted to take all of that data, throw it into ChatGPT and ask it to build me a metrics report in a spreadsheet like this. The fact that it could create something like this with this well of formatting and probably formulas built in. This is literally, we're living in the future, and it's got all of these different tabs down here with budget, headcount, summary, assumptions. This is what me as a leader, this is what I need. And you as an individual, you need more of this. Dan Martell talks about it a lot, right? You need insight. You need to understand your numbers. And so ChatGPT is a great way, not just to automate your work so you don't have to do it. You need AI to actually help you to understand what's going on in your business, what's going on in your day-to-day work. And that's how you should be using it. You shouldn't just use automation so that you don't have to do anything. You should use automation so that you can get the answers that you need faster, so you can make the strategic decisions faster that you need to make to move yourself forward in your career, move yourself forward in your business, whatever it may be. But you need insight, you need wisdom, and being able to unpack this stuff. AI is not necessarily going to just give you wisdom, but it can get all of the information in a format that helps you understand things better. So that way you actually can have insight, have wisdom, have everything that you actually need to be able to move yourself forward in your career and your business. And so this is the way that you really need to be using these tools. And so that's an example of it. I like seeing more visuals like this. I'm looking for some others before I actually dive in here. Let me go into ChatGPT for you and see if they actually released it. Yeah. So it's, if you go into ChatGPT, coming up here into the top left, you're still going to see GPT 5.1. Most likely, some of you might see 5.2. They usually roll it out to different users at different levels. I'm a paid user. I've had a paid user account for a long time. So usually I get access before some people, but it's still not in here right now. And so what I'm going to do is come over here. Most of you guys don't use this platform system. So let me switch over to a default project. So if you go to platform.openai.com and create an account there, this is how developers use OpenAI. We don't just go into ChatGPT. We actually use the API if we're building platforms or building tools or building agents ourselves. This is how we get access to API keys, the API docs, or test things out, projects. This is where you go to use Agent Builder. You get audio and images in here that you can test out, but you also get earlier access to things like GPT 5.2 because it's available in the API right away. And so this is how you can kind of test it. This is going to look a little bit more complex to you guys because you have things like tools and variables and developer messages and prompt messages. So we're going to ignore all of that, pretend like it's not there, and just come in here and test it. And so you just kind of chat with it like normal, but you get access to this. And so right away, we get an M dash. I know that's a big debate topic for a lot of people, is the M dash. And we actually got better with GPT 5.1, right? When we moved into GPT 5.1, it's not so much that you're telling AI not to use M dashes. It's more that you want AI to listen to the instructions that you give it. That's what matters to me as an individual. So I want AI to do what I tell it to do when I tell it to do it, and know and count on the fact that it's going to do those things. And so that's what I'm looking for in an AI model. And when you get a model that you tell it don't use M dashes and it still uses M dashes, you already know that there's something wrong with the model. And so GPT 5.1, it wasn't an improvement in its ability not to use M dashes. It was an improvement in its ability to listen to your instructions. Let's say I need to avoid using M dashes. It's a small detail. Okay, so it actually went into thinking because I think I'm just in the GPT 5.2, but I guess it's actually thinking in the background. Hi, what can I help you with? Write me a LinkedIn post. Please make it about the weather. Cool. Right. So no M dashes. So that's what I want to see. It's not so much that I don't like M dashes. I actually like M dashes. I use them manually myself because I think that they're a useful tool when you're writing. But it's a big controversy now because AI would only use M dashes in all of its writing. And you could kind of tell this is an excess use of M dashes. So I like to tell it not to. And what I'm looking for here in a model is that it will actually listen to what I'm telling it to do. And so that's a good thing. Now, what I want to do is test out. So I use AI for writing a lot of LinkedIn posts. I don't never, ever just post what AI gives you. But if you want help writing, like, I like to really quickly get a first draft out. And then I really collaborate with it to get the hook right and to get, I have a framework. First is the hook, then the rehook, and then the emotional attachment. And then and then you end with a question. So I have my framework for how I write LinkedIn posts with it. And I have that all built into custom instructions, custom project with examples, things like that. So I've got a webinar on Thursday next week. So if you go to LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn, look for the event there. You could just check out the webinar. It's free. I'm actually going to be doing more breakdowns on how to use ChatGPT, how to write with ChatGPT, how to use AI in 2026, how to use these different projects, when to use Grok, all of that stuff. And it'll be a live Q&A. So you could I'll pay attention more to the comments and you guys can ask questions in there and I'll give you guys real quick answers. But for now, this is an example of developer message. Really, this is like pre-instructions that you give it as a developer. So that way it knows, like if I wrote this in, you as a user, if I built an app with ChatGPT and I put in a developer message like this, you would never be able to change it. Only I can change it as the developer because it's in the code. And so, this is where you would kind of add custom instructions a little bit as an engineer. And then I would give you as a user a way to add your own custom instructions. But maybe I would say, when writing LinkedIn posts, always return the post in a code block. Want to see if that, write that again. Want to see if it's got code block built in. Yeah. So the reason I do this is because up here, if I clicked copy on this in ChatGPT, it would copy usually it'll say, great, here's a post for you. And now when I click copy, I have the first message or if you want any changes to that, just let me know, like all that stuff. So I like when it returns the post in a code block. So that way I can just click copy like that. And then it's actually got the formatting. It's got what I need and it doesn't have anything else. And so I kind of like that. Always use a curiosity hook in your LinkedIn posts. The first hook should always encourage the user to click the more button to read more. Use the ... to end off the first or second line in a hook format. Right. Write another variation. Okay. I didn't expect the weather to teach me about productivity lesson this week. Click more. Oh, see, that's not what I want. Don't tell them to click more. It should just encourage them due to curiosity. So this is literally prompt engineering. This is how you build try again. This is how you work with AI. So if you always wonder why it doesn't give you what you want it to give you, this is what you need to do. Now, you don't do it here when you're actually using AI in ChatGPT. In ChatGPT, the way that you do this is you come over, you click new project, test project, create, and then up here, top right, click project settings or add instructions. This is where you do that. So everything I'm doing right now, you can do in ChatGPT in a custom project. So I have a LinkedIn project that I use for writing and I build out the custom instructions along the way. So this video isn't really to talk about how to write with it better, but this is a great tip for anybody using ChatGPT. Stop saying ChatGPT sucks or GPT sucks at writing or, GPT 5.2 is worse than GPT 5.1. Just get in here, get good at custom instructions, get good at prompt engineering, get good at context engineering. And if you don't know how to do that, follow my content on LinkedIn. Subscribe on YouTube because this is all I'm doing with people is helping them learn how to get more out of AI. I tell people all the time, people have been bad communicators for decades, right? As leaders, we blame people for not giving us what we wanted in the results, and when we hire a new employee, that team member sucks, right? But at the end of the day, we don't give people good instructions with good context and training so that they can succeed in the tasks that we give them. So instead, us as leaders, our job is to get better at communication so that you know exactly how I want things done, when I want things done, and how to do it the way that I want it done. And it's the same with AI. So I think AI is going to help people become better communicators, better leaders, better individuals because they're going to stop blaming other people. They're going to start thinking, I need to get better at this. Now, that's my hope. I'm hoping that you watching are actually going to get better at this. So if you can take anything from this, that's what you need to do is stop blaming other people in life, stop blaming AI in life, actually get really good at giving it context and then giving it clear instructions. So you have context engineering and you have prompt engineering. Context engineering is giving it the information that it needs to know about whatever topic, right? So LinkedIn, I'm going to give it, all of my most successful posts on LinkedIn and all of the information about them, how many impressions they got, how many comments they got, how many likes. This is context. It's really helpful. And then prompt engineering is I want to make a post about the release of GPT 5.2. That's the instructions, right? Good prompt engineering is where you actually give it very specific instructions. I want the hook to be like this. And this is what your custom instructions. It's a little bit of prompt engineering in here because you're telling it so that you don't have to tell it every time over and over again. I always want the hook to be like this. I never want there to be em dashes. That's prompt engineering. So when you get into 5.2, you can test it out and kind of see, but like a lot of people are going to test it and be like, meh, I don't like it. It's not special. Can't do what I want it to do. And it's literally just because you don't know how to do proper prompt engineering or context engineering. So highly encourage you to study that more, improve on that more, because it's going to affect your everyday work when you're using AI. And we're just huge proponents of using AI in your everyday work. And so I think that it literally can save you 5, 10 plus hours a week if you use it right, but the way that you use it right really matters. And so let's get back over here. Now we've got GPT 5.2, 5.2 chat, 5.2 pro. So we've got all the models in the API. We're not going to break down on this one because I would have to do a lot more research. I can't do a live reaction as deep and thorough as you guys deserve, like a really would like to show you all of the best prompts. Here's how you can get the most out of GPT 5.2. I can't do that on a live reaction, but I hope that this video kind of at least gave you a good example of like, oh, like, we're getting a little bit better. The biggest thing here is that context, long context with GPT 5.2, that's a good thing that it's getting better at that. It's getting better at vision recognition. So uploading images or screenshots, it's going to be more accurate. You can trust that it actually knows what it's talking about from the image that you gave it. And so these things are good. I want to head more in that direction. I want all of the models to head more in that direction. So I'm happy about that. I don't think we're going to take a step back. I'm hoping that it doesn't break ChatGPT because this happened when we went from 4.0 to 5. It just felt like, oh, this is weird. This is different. And they just made a lot of changes. Then we went from 5 to 5.1. They thought that one out pretty well. And I don't think that they broke anything. So it was pretty good. I liked the change. I'm hoping that they didn't rush this out and it just makes our experience terrible, right? Going from 5.1 to 5.2. That's my hope, is that we are not going to take steps back with that. Looking at some of the comments here, is it good for studying like in high school or graduate level? Yeah, I mean, dude, I use ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, all of them for studying. Now, if you're really trying to study in-depth information about things, NotebookLM is a great tool as well. That's Gemini. Gemini 3 is the base model for that. It's owned by Google. So if you go to notebooklm.google.com, that's the best place I would start, because you can use that to get the information for studying really well. You can basically upload a ton of information, documents, PDFs, but you can use their search feature. So you can just type in information about a topic. It'll go off on the internet, find a bunch of websites and articles about that topic. And then you can click flashcards. You can click quizzes. You can create quizzes from it. You can create an explainer video. You can create a podcast and audio overview with it, an infographic. So you can do all of that inside of NotebookLM in one place. So I would push people for studying and learning information, go to NotebookLM. Don't go to ChatGPT right away. ChatGPT is still good, but the way that you would use ChatGPT is more conversational. Whereas if you want to study something, NotebookLM is a little bit of a better tool for that. So highly recommend it for that. People are talking about it, punching up the benchmarks. I agree. I voiced it earlier. I think the benchmarks are the benchmarks. They're good and they're hopefully accurate for the most part, but sometimes we've seen them just totally biff it on the benchmark screenshots that they show us. They'll literally show one graph that's higher than another graph, but the percentages are lower. And I don't know what they're doing. So I don't trust the benchmarks right off the bat. Just everybody's going to tell everybody that they're the best at what they do. Elon Musk does it. Sam Altman does it. Google does it. Everybody says, I'm the best. We're the greatest. And really what you have to do is get in and experience it for yourself and see if it works for your workflow, if you actually find that it's helpful. And so I'm pretty skeptical of the benchmarks when I'm originally looking at them. But yeah, we had January, GPT-4. Yeah, we're taking big jumps, right? So going from GPT-4 to GPT 5.2, everybody's moving faster. I've heard Grok is coming out with another model soon, and then Grok 5 is going to be coming out early 2026, and Gemini released their model. So we're moving super fast. All right. Last thing before I jump off, I'm just going to come back over to X. Let me refresh this page, see what everybody's saying. GPT 5.2. Guys, just so you know, this is how I get my news fastest, right? X and Grok are the best for getting information super fast. You'll find out information before anybody else if you just follow certain trends or topics on X. And if you want to research topics that are not like, there's not a bunch of articles written about them on the internet, there's not a bunch of YouTube videos released on them yet, use Grok, because Grok will research X feeds and you can find information much, much faster. So obviously you've got this little release here. They're showing all the benchmarks, which again, we've already talked a lot about that. Okay. Yeah. So some people are showing, I've been testing GPT 5.2 for a while now. This is what I want to see. Some people that had early access, it built a full 3D graphics engine in a single file. Interactive controls, 4K export, one shot. The pace of progress is unreal. This is good. I like seeing stuff like this. This is an actual example of somebody using it. It's not super useful necessarily. It really just shows how effective a reasoning model can be. So, I like seeing stuff like that. This is the big, yep. So that's what I was pointing out earlier. This is what everybody's really seeing as like a huge jump. This is the new score. It's a very big deal, probably the most economically relevant measure of AI's ability, suggesting that in head-to-head competition with human experts on tasks that require 4 to 8 hours for a human, GPT 5.2 wins 71% of the time, right? So that's how this eval works, the GDPVal knowledge work tasks. That's what I was talking about earlier. It basically is going to take a test that humans would take 4 to 8 hours to complete, and how often is it going to outperform the human? And before we were at 38% with GPT 5.1. Now, I don't know why this is showing GPT-5, GPT 5.1 thinking. I don't like that. See, this is where I like, okay, was it GPT 5.1 thinking or was it GPT-5, the model before that? I don't like when they're trying to pull one over on us. So I'm always skeptical. Seeing any kind of jump, even if it was from GPT-5 to GPT 5.2, that is this big from 38% to 70%, that's a huge deal. And this is the one I think that matters most to you, is knowledge work tasks. This is how humans, real humans, interact with AI, is in that knowledge work format. And so highly recommend getting in, testing it out for yourself. When Access actually releases on ChatGPT, yep, I just refreshed the page on ChatGPT. It's still not out yet. This is cool. Yeah, details on the GDPVal. Real agent works, real work. Cool. 71% isn't just a win, it's rewiring of labor cost. So everybody's talking about this GDPVal. Why'd they hold off? Why wasn't this 5.1? Because they didn't expect Gemini to be so good. Even without the ability to do new things like output polished files, GPT 5.2 feels like the biggest upgrade we've had in a long time. Again, everybody, all they ever have to say is good things about themselves. So same thing for Sam Altman. Yeah, I mean, that's it, guys. Looks like we're headed in the right direction. We're not going to know until we get in and actually use it, right? I didn't realize how good GPT 5.1 was until I started to use it for about a week. And so get in, test it out, use it for about a week. These are my initial reactions. I like it. I think that we're heading in a good direction. Yeah. So what's better right now, Gemini or GPT 5.2? We don't know yet, right? We have to actually test it, and that's going to take about a week or two to really put it to the test in software development and writing ability and brainstorming, right? So I use it every day for things like strategy talk and how should I build comp plans for our sales team? How should I how should I approach the metrics and our goals, our financial goals, revenue goals for 2026, and how should we break that down on a monthly and quarterly basis? I use it for things like that, and I give it context so that it understands what I'm talking about. Up to this point, from 4.0 to 5 to 5.1, we had some good jumps in its ability to be able to have those conversations with me. Now jumping from 5.1 to 5.2, I get to test it out and see, but we don't know yet. I don't know if Gemini 3 is still better than GPT 5.2 or vice versa. We're going to have to get in and test it out. And you're going to see all kinds of clickbait on the internet, on X, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Everybody's going to say, basically this happens all the time. You see X killed Y or X made Y irrelevant, right? And so people are going to say that GPT 5.2 is the greatest thing to slice bread. GPT 5.2 made Gemini 3 look like an idiot, right? You need to actually test it out for yourself. Yeah, Claude's good, very limited. GPT 5.2 is not out for me so far, still waiting. Yeah, Andreas, same thing for me as far as ChatGPT. But like I said, if you want real quick access to test it out, go create an account at platform.openai.com and you can test it out there. Is it free? Not necessarily. You've got to put your card on file and you get billed at the API rate, but it's very, very affordable. So you could test it out for 50 cents. It's not gonna charge you a lot of money. So definitely get in there and check it out. But I think GPT 5.2 should be better than Gemini 3 Pro now. It feels like a horse race every few weeks, a new winner. Dude, that's my favorite. Like, I literally feel like we're living in one of the greatest times right now, just because every week or two, we've got something brand new coming out that's better than the last. And this is good for us as consumers. I say it all the time. The competition is really good for us. We want this level of competition because it pushes people like Sam Altman to freak out, get with his team and say, we need to do better. We need to do better. And basically what you end up is the horse race, neck and neck, and all the models just keep getting better and better and better. And that's what we want to see, is people getting better and better and better models out there. And so I'm super excited about it. I think that as we continue to go, I can't even guess. People ask me all the time, like, what's 2026 going to look like when it comes to AI? And I can't even tell you. I literally have no idea what, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. I have no idea, guys. It's crazy. 2025, January, I did not think that we were going to be where we're at today. Moving into 2026, I can't even guess where we're going to go. Like, I know the clients that I'm working with, like voice AI is becoming very, very popular. Image models are getting better and better. Video models are literally crossing this line where it was unusable at one point to now it's usable. So but everything is changing drastically. I don't really know how to just like forecast out what even the second quarter of 2026 is going to look like. Because 3 weeks ago, GPT 5.1 was like, this is great. This is a brand new model. Beautiful. It works great. I'm super happy with this. And less than a month later, they're releasing 5.2. And so who knows where we're going to be in January and February and March. And things are just changing extremely fast. And so I'm super excited to see how things look moving into the new year. Again, guys, definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go check me out on LinkedIn. I'm super active on LinkedIn. I love the relationship building on LinkedIn. I've got a webinar next week just talking about how to leverage AI in 2026. So all we're going to do is Q&A style. You ask a question. I'm probably going to bring a couple of business owners or leaders onto the call and have them basically walk me through some headaches or problems they're dealing with. And I'll just show them live on screen how you can actually use AI to speak. So when people say AI can give you 5 to 10 hours back every day or every week, or 40 to 60 hours per day average back. Most people don't know what that means. And so that's what the whole call is going to be about, like how to leverage AI in 2026, how to use it. When I say that I use it for research, what does that mean? What tools do I use? Like, don't get stuck on ChatGPT because ChatGPT is one tool. It's a great tool, but it's one tool. And if you're not testing out some of these other tools, you're going to be pretty limited. So giving you guys the opportunity to work with you on a Q&A basis in that webinar, I'm super excited about that. That's where most of my passion is just helping coach people, educate people. So definitely check it out. Go to LinkedIn, go to our Madewell page, and you'll be able to find the webinar link there, and you can register, and we'll probably start doing more of these more often. But definitely go check it out today. You can click the register. It's free. The webinar is free. So you get the opportunity to work with me on how to use AI moving to 2026. So another question here, do you think OpenAI has GPT-6 only for their personal internal use? Yeah, people talk about this all the time, right? All the conspiracies, or a lot of people say AGI is already here. They just haven't released it publicly. I don't know, guys. I would assume because people have had GPT-5, like the fact that Notion and Dropbox and a couple other companies were already testing 5.2 for the past, I don't know how long, maybe a couple of weeks. That shows us that how much is actually happening internally at companies at xAI and Anthropic and Google's Gemini and OpenAI, same thing, right? That they all probably have models that are way farther along, but they're testing them internally first. So I don't know the answer to that. My assumption would be yes. Now, I don't think that they benefit from having GPTs truly available and ready for production and just choosing not to release it because they want to keep it to themselves. I don't think that that's necessarily the situation we're dealing with. I just think that we're at a point where they're testing things really rapidly and we just don't have access to it yet, but they're going to release it. So I would assume as soon as GPT-6 is production ready, they're going to release it. They're going to, at the very least, release it to their partner companies like Cursor and Notion and these other companies that they partner with to test these models. Because that's their goal, right? They make money from API usage, which means they want other people to use these models so that they can continue to grow their business. And so that's my assumption. But like I said, guys, definitely go check out the webinar on LinkedIn next week, Thursday, 11 a.m., December 18th. That's what I'm super excited about. So subscribe here on YouTube or follow me on LinkedIn, wherever you're at, checking in on this live stream. Definitely check out that webinar next week because that's going to be very focused on broad usage, not just GPT 5.2, but broad usage of AI and how you can use it as a knowledge worker, as an individual that wants to get the most out of their AI use. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm super excited to really get in and understand GPT 5.2 and how it affects us. I'll probably release another video that actually breaks down how it's changing things. But stoked to talk to you guys more. But check it out on LinkedIn. Can't say it enough. Go check out the webinar. Appreciate it, guys.